The first thing you should understand about the Araxi throne world is that nothing there is built for comfort. Everything is built for awe. The city of Carvel rose like a blade driven straight into the planet's crust, its towers grown rather than constructed, formed from black crystalline alloys that reflected the red light of the system's dying sun. The air itself felt heavy, charged with a low hum that vibrated through your bones. Even the ground seemed to pulse faintly, as though the planet were alive and watching you. I was very aware of all this as I stood alone in the Hall of Judgment. Very aware, because at the far end of the hall, upon a throne carved from the fossilized shell of some extinct leviathan, sat Queen Zyratiel of the Araxi Dominion. And she was furious. Her eyes, 4 of them, arranged in a diamond pattern, burned with bioluminescent gold. Her crest flared wide, each spined ridge lifting in a display that every species in the sector recognized as a prelude to violence. The air around her crackled with restrained energy, as if the room itself knew better than to relax. I had been told not to look her directly in the eyes. I had been told not to speak unless spoken to. I had been told very clearly that humans were on thin ice. Apparently, I had missed the memo about how thin. "You stand accused," the Queen said, her voice echoing through the chamber without the aid of amplification, of deliberate insult to the sovereign of the Araxi, of diplomatic contamination, and of cultural subversion. That last one sounded particularly bad. I swallowed and tried not to shift my weight. Around the edges of the hall, Araxi guards stood motionless, their armor seamlessly fused to their bodies, weapons integrated into their forearms. Every one of them could kill me before my brain finished registering the decision. "I apologize, Your Majesty," I said carefully. "If I have caused offense, it was unintentional." A ripple of anger rolled through the chamber. "Unintentional," Zyratiel repeated, rising from her throne. She was taller than any human I had ever met, her form a blend of elegance and menace, long, jointed limbs, iridescent obsidian skin etched with natural glyphs that glowed faintly as her emotions rose. In Araxi culture, beauty and terror were not opposites. They were partners. "You addressed me," she continued, descending the steps, during a state audience. "You violated silence protocol, and you uttered a phrase forbidden to all but bonded kin." My stomach dropped. The translators hadn't mentioned that part. I said, I hesitated, then forced myself to finish. "I said you were beautiful." The word hung in the air like a live grenade. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then the Queen's crest flared fully, every spine standing rigid. The guards tensed. The advisors lining the walls recoiled in visible horror. And Queen Zyratiel let out a sound that shook the hall, a resonant, echoing hiss that translated poorly but carried one clear meaning. "Rage." "Do you mock me, human?" she demanded, her eyes narrowing. "Do you dare reduce the sovereign of the Dominion to an object of aesthetic judgment?" "No," I said quickly, perhaps too quickly. "I mean, yes, but not like that. I wasn't mocking you. I was telling the truth. That might have been the moment my species died." The Queen stepped closer. Each step made the floor resonate beneath my boots. I could feel the heat radiating from her skin now, see the faint electrical arcs dancing along the glyphs carved into her flesh. "In Araxi history," she said slowly, "such words have sparked wars." "I believe it," I replied honestly. That seemed to give her pause. "You do not deny your statement," she said. "No," I said. "I stand by it." A murmur rippled through the court. Humanity had entered the galactic stage barely 30 years earlier, and we were still learning which words carried the weight of weapons. The Araxi were ancient, older than our written history, older than most stars in our charts. Their culture was layered with meaning, every phrase a blade with two edges. And here I was, a mid-level human envoy with more courage than sense, telling their queen she was beautiful. "Explain," Zyratil commanded. I took a breath. "When humans say someone is beautiful," I began, choosing my words with care, "we don't mean they are weak or ornamental. Beauty, to us, is not softness. It's resonance." Her eyes flickered. "Continue." "Beauty is when something is so perfectly itself that it commands attention. When strength, purpose, and presence align in a way that makes you feel smaller, but also honored to witness it." The hall was silent. I gestured slightly, unable to help myself. "Your Majesty, your people built an empire that spans 11 systems. You unified clans that had warred for millennia. Your very presence changes the air in this room. If that isn't beauty, then the word means nothing." The queen stared at me. For a long time, I could feel my heart hammering in my chest, could hear the faint whine of my own blood in my ears. Every survival instinct screamed at me to stop talking. But humans are very good at talking when we shouldn't. "In my culture," I added quietly, "we don't reserve admiration only for lovers. We give it to mountains, to storms, to things that can destroy us, but don't unless they must." The queen's crest slowly lowered. The glow of her glyphs dimmed from furious gold to a deep, contemplative amber. "You compare me to a storm," she said. "Yes," I said. "And to a mountain." Another long pause. The advisors whispered among themselves, their tones sharp with confusion. The guards remained still, but their weapons no longer hummed with imminent discharge. "Human," Zyratil said at last, "you tread dangerously close to ancient meaning." "I know," I replied, "and I accept the risk." Something shifted then. Not in the room, but in her. The queen straightened, her posture changing from confrontational to curious. "In Araxi tradition," she said, "to speak of beauty in this manner is to acknowledge sovereignty beyond title. It is a recognition of inevitability." I nodded slowly. "That sounds about right. You were not taught this." "No," I admitted. "We're new." A faint sound escaped her, a low, rhythmic vibration. It took a moment for the translator to catch up. She was laughing. The court erupted into stunned silence. "Humans," Queen Zyratil said, her voice now carrying something dangerously close to amusement, "are either the most reckless species to ever leave their cradle or the most honest." "Why not both?" I offered. Her laughter grew, echoing off the walls. "Your diplomats feared you would offend us," she said. They were correct. My shoulders sagged. "But," she continued, raising a clawed hand, "they did not foresee that the offense would be enlightening." She turned, addressing her court. "For 10 cycles, the Dominion has dealt with species who bow, flatter, and lie. They praise power they fear and hide truth behind protocol." Her gaze returned to me. This human did none of that. I felt suddenly very small. "You spoke without calculation," she said. "You saw strength and named it as your kind names such things." The queen stepped back toward her throne. "Tell me, human," she said, seating herself once more. "What is your name?" "Daniel Reyes," I said. "Daniel Reyes," she repeated, the syllables rolling strangely off her tongue. "You have committed a cultural transgression that, by law, warrants your execution." I winced. "And yet," she went on, "you have also fulfilled an ancient rite, one long thought forgotten." The advisor stiffened. "A rite?" One dared to ask. "The rite of unmasked regard," the queen replied. "To speak truth to a sovereign without fear, without desire for favor." Her eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "No subject has done so in over 800 years. The hall erupted into whispers. I blinked. So, am I dead? The Queen considered me. No, she said. You are interesting. I wasn't sure that was better. You will remain on Carvel, she continued, as an observer. You will learn our ways. And, in turn, you'll teach us how humans see the universe. I stared at her. As a prisoner? As a guest, she corrected. Under my protection. The words carried weight. Humanity had arrived in the galaxy as the smallest voice in the room. We lacked the fleets of the Araxi, the biotech of the Veln, the psionic mastery of the Thale. What we always had, was perspective. We saw beauty where others saw dominance. We spoke truths wrapped not in submission, but in awe. As the guards lowered their weapons and the court slowly dispersed, Queen Zyratil regarded me with an expression I could not fully read. Daniel Reyes, she said softly, you have changed how I will be addressed by your kind. I hope in a good way, I said. She inclined her head, a gesture few ever witnessed. You reminded me, she said, that fury and beauty are not opposites. As I was escorted from the hall, legs trembling, I realized something profound. I hadn't survived by being clever. I had survived by being human. And somewhere deep in the heart of an alien empire, an ancient queen had been reminded that even a storm could be admired, not because it was safe, but because it was true. Humanity would be remembered for many things in the galaxy. But it all started, improbably enough, with one terrible breach of protocol and a compliment meant from the heart. I stayed on Carvel for 3 standard cycles. That alone made history. No human had ever been permitted to remain on the Araxi throne world without military escort, containment fields, or a carefully worded threat of annihilation. I had none of those. Only a sigil of protection bearing the Queen's personal mark, etched into a small band I wore around my wrist. The court never quite knew what to do with me. I was invited to war councils, where no one expected me to speak. I was present at ritual displays of dominance meant to intimidate lesser species. I watched queens and generals posture, threaten, and maneuver like living weapons. And when asked my thoughts, I answered honestly. Sometimes that honesty made them uncomfortable. Sometimes it made them quiet. Queen Zyratil and I spoke often, never privately, always within sight of witnesses, yet somehow more openly than most rulers ever dared. She asked about Earth's oceans, about our storms, about why humans climbed mountains knowing we might fall. Because they're there, I told her once. She had been silent for a long time after that. By the end of the 3rd cycle, the Dominion stance toward humanity had shifted. Subtly at first, trade concessions framed as tests, patrol routes adjusted coincidentally away from our borders. Then openly, a mutual defense clause proposed by the Queen herself. When the human delegation arrived to formalize the treaty, they found a different Araxi court than the one they feared. And a different queen. During the signing ceremony, Zyratil rose before the assembled dignitaries of 12 species. Let it be recorded, she said, her voice carrying across the hall, that the Araxi Dominion recognizes humanity not as a minor power, but as a people of regard. The term sent a ripple through the chamber. It meant a species whose words were weighed, whose perspective mattered, regardless of fleet size. As the ceremony concluded, the Queen's gaze found mine across the hall. For just a moment, her crest lifted, not in fury, not in dominance, but in something softer, something earned. Later, as I prepared to leave Carvel and return home, she addressed me one final time. Daniel Reyes, she said, your people see beauty where others see only threat. That is dangerous. I smiled. So is honesty. Yes, she agreed. But it is a danger this galaxy has survived without for too long. The shuttle doors closed. The throne world fell away beneath me, its spires shrinking into the void. Humanity would go on to be feared, respected, and occasionally cursed across the stars, not for our weapons, but for our mouths, for our habit of speaking truth without armor, for our refusal to separate awe from strength. And somewhere in the heart of an ancient empire, an alien queen would be remembered not only for her fury, but as the first sovereign in centuries to be called beautiful, and to understand exactly what that meant.